After a break, and I decided to try out a little Christian scripture on you all. I think that might not be the first time I've done that. After all, I am a Christian, even if I'm not the kind of Christian that's usually in the news. So I'm going to read to you what is probably a familiar passage, the Good Samaritan. I'm going to read it to you in the Message version by Eugene Peterson, which is 1960s slang vernacular. I don't have anything more recent to offer. I'm dating myself. Anyways, here goes. Luke 10, 25 to 37. Just then, a religious scholar stood up with a question to test Jesus. Teacher, what do I need to do to get eternal life? He answered, what is written in God's law? How do you interpret it? The man said, that you love the Lord your God with all your passion and prayer and muscle and intelligence, and that you love your neighbor as well as you do yourself. Good answer, said Jesus. Do this, and you'll live. Looking for a loophole, he asked, just how would you define neighbor? Jesus answered by telling this story. There was once a man traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho. On the way, he was attacked by robbers. They took his clothes, beat him up, and went off, leaving him half dead. Luckily, a priest was on his way down the same road. But when he saw him, he angled across the other side. Then a Levite, a religious man, showed up. He also avoided the injured man. A Samaritan, not a Jew, those neighbors across the border, traveling the road, came across him. And when he saw the man's condition, his heart went out to him. He gave him first aid, disinfecting and bandaging his wounds. Then he lifted him onto his donkey, led him to an inn, and made him comfortable. In the morning...
Yes.
Yeah, Linda, she took her medicine?
I'm not sure.
It's gone, so.
Okay, she must have taken it.
Okay, I was just making sure.
Then he lifted him onto his donkey, led him to an inn, and made him comfortable. In the morning he took out 2 silver coins and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, take good care of him. If it costs any more, put it on my bill. I'll pay you on the way back. What do you think? Which of the 3 became a neighbor to the man attacked by robbers? The one who treated him kindly, the religious scholar responded. Jesus said, go and do the same. So you've probably heard of this story, whether or not you have a Christian upbringing. The usual phrase that the loophole seeker asks is, who is my neighbor? And that is a question that is very much on my mind these days, because people are being demonized and made into enemies who are our neighbors, literally our neighbors. And so I invite you to just take a deep breath and sit for a minute and reflect on who is your neighbor and how are you neighborly to them. You will not be graded on the answer to that question. It's a work in progress. All of us are learning. All of us are human. Our hearts are not big enough to contain the whole world. And so, clergy garb, witnessing, what shall I call them? I want to call them abductions, kidnappings by ICE in immigration court. I know that's so loaded. I don't feel comfortable calling them arrests or detentions because that makes them sound legitimate and under the rule of law and, with some rights for the people being affected. I wrote it out as abductions. Maybe I'll think of a better word for it later. See, my message today is going to be political whether I like it or not, because who is my neighbor has become a politicized question. But first, it's a moral question, and one that Jesus invited us to reflect on and open our hearts to. So, 5 miles from my house in a shiny suburban office park is our local immigration court. Unlike the criminal court downtown, it's suburban. It has great parking and a beautiful little park with shaded tables out front. I got to know it very well for the 3 months I spent this summer observing proceedings inside courtrooms, handing out Know Your Rights flyers outside in the fresh air, and staring down ICE agents in the hallways of the courtroom. I trained other volunteers for C.L.U.E, and my friends and I did not stop a single abduction. Instead, we witnessed. We witnessed bewildered people without attorneys who couldn't afford attorneys. We witnessed people whose attorneys had cheated them, and we witnessed people whose attorneys were screaming at the ICE agents taking them away, "How can you arrest my client? You can't do that in court. How is this even legal?" ICE agents don't care about what's legal, and neither do the people they work for. I went into court on that first day, naive. I was imagining that we might somehow protect people from being abducted. A group of people were crowded around the outside of courtroom 22 at the end of a long, narrow hallway. They wore street clothes. Their faces weren't covered, but they did have these balaclavas around their neck. And as we soon discovered, they were not afraid to use threats and disabling force to clear the way for their abductions. Inside, the courtroom was crowded with people seeking to do the right thing, to do the paperwork, to become citizens of this great country. The judge was pretending nothing was wrong. "You're early in the process," he'd say. "You'll have plenty of opportunity to make your case later." This to people about to be dragged into vans and deported. As a couple left the courtroom, I pulled them aside and whispered, in my broken Spanish, "ICE is outside the courtroom, and they will probably arrest you." Then I walked out into the hall with them. I tried to walk arm in arm with the man who was shaking like a leaf. But the agents threatened me, so I had to let him go. "I'll pray for you," was all I could say. He and his wife were dragged into an emergency exit stairwell and disappeared into a van waiting out back. On that day, 12 people were abducted from the court hallways. Men and women, old and young, children. They were driven away to holding cells in the basements of federal buildings in Santa Ana or LA. These holding facilities have been described as hellholes not fit for animals. These are the places where legislators are routinely denied entry presumably because the conditions are too shameful and too illegal to allow anyone to witness them. From there, after hours or days, or in some cases weeks, they're sent to detention centers. In our case, usually Adelanto, a 2-hour drive out in the desert off Highway 395. That's the closest detention center, but possibly anywhere in the country. Finding someone who's been abducted by ICE is a project, and a few people are never found. From detention, they're loaded as quickly as possible onto planes, chained hand and foot, men and women, old and young, children, to be deported, usually back to their country of origin, whether or not they're marked for death there. They were chosen at court because they were eligible for expedited removal. That means no pretense of due process, no matter how good a case for asylum they might have. During the 3 months I was at court, I witnessed a refugee with protected status being abducted. I witnessed a 74-year-old grandma put in handcuffs. I witnessed a Venezuelan man whose father was a political opposition figure crying and screaming to the judge that he was going to be shot as soon as he walked off the plane. I saw a child with his mother loaded into a van by those same men in the hallway, now masked, because outside the courtroom you're allowed to take photographs, and apparently they were worried about their faces being known in public. Around the end of August, ICE agents stopped coming to our court. We're not sure why. I suspect it's because the courts are nearly empty now. The majority of people are not showing up to court because they're afraid of getting kidnapped. Then when they miss their hearings, they're marked for deportation. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Maybe ICE agents are elsewhere because a recent policy has made about 2.5 million people eligible for expedited removal, being put on a plane and dumped anywhere on the planet without anything resembling due process. The Supreme Court has upheld this injustice and has ruled that ICE can round up people on the street or in any public place based on, well, skin color, neighborhood, language, or low-wage job. In other words, anybody they feel like. ICE agents have found other low-hanging fruit. They're abducting people from their immigration process appointments. Some have been here for 20 or 30 years. Some were one step away from a green card. Many of them have work permits, pay taxes, including Social Security that they'll never see. These abductions are happening daily now in downtown Santa Ana at 34 Civic Center Drive. Who are these people being abducted? They are our neighbors. And this is not a metaphor. They are literally our neighbors. I think about the debt I owe to them for doing hard work that I am not willing or able to do. And I think about the risks some of them are taking just being out on the street with brown skin, doing a stereotypical immigrant job. I remember and I honor and I thank the neighbors who care for our children and our elders, who grow our food, who clean our homes and offices, who keep our restaurants and hotels running. They build our homes. They are our doctors and nurses. They are UCI teachers and researchers. They are not different from us. They just arrived a little later. Oh, that's interesting. There we go. So, who is my neighbor? These people are my neighbors. And how do I show them my love? By witnessing their suffering and talking about it and not looking away and not pretending it's not happening. I don't know how to fix an immigration system that is clearly broken and overwhelmed, and I understand that we cannot accommodate all the people in the world who want to come to the United States. But that doesn't excuse what is happening right now. It's never all right to treat anyone the way these people are being treated. This reality is hard to bear. Not only that this kind of suffering is happening to our neighbors, but that our government, founded on such noble principles, could stoop so low as to brag about the laws it flouts and the horrors it commits in order to terrorize our neighbors. I mean, who wants to admit that this can happen in America? So guess what? People deny it. They deny reality so they don't have to sit with the moral quandary that our government is flouting the law and the Constitution to terrorize people. Our government. In my summer at immigration court, I learned all kinds of ways people can deny reality. I heard a judge blame us, the volunteers, for people missing their court appointments. People were missing their court appointments because ICE agents were arresting people at court. Our present administration denies reality by telling us that they are detaining and deporting the worst of the worst. This is a lie. In former times, almost everyone detained away from the border had some kind of interaction with law enforcement. Now it's down to about 30%. 70% had none. I didn't witness a single person at court accused of a crime. I mean, I heard that it happened to a couple. Even before this administration, these so-called criminals who got detained were always people who had already served their time in jail or who had had a brush with the law, often because of racial profiling, but never got convicted of anything. How convenient to turn every neighbor with brown skin, every grandma and child into a criminal, so their subhuman treatment won't weigh on your conscience. The ICE agents were past masters at this. We weren't supposed to talk to ICE. It seldom went well, but they wanted to talk to us. They wanted to justify their actions to religious people. Isn't that interesting? Like all of us, they wanted to think well of themselves. They wanted to think of themselves as good people. They claimed that they were treating our neighbors humanely, and I saw that some of them really did try. The one who seemed to be in charge tried to be gentle when prying families apart. He would pause in the hallway to allow us to take down contact info so we could let loved ones know that their people had been abducted. He said more than once that he used to be at the border chasing narcos, and clearly he wished he was elsewhere. One agent was a piece of work. He denied there was anything wrong with the federal building basements where people were stuffed like sardines. Those people reporting their ordeals in these hellholes, they're all lying, he says. He should know from lying. He told me when he was marching me out the building that I was banned from the court for life for opening a door for someone. And that I was going to face a multi-thousand-dollar fine. Reality was I could only be banned for 1 day, and the fine was imaginary. And I think, they could have abducted me, but abducting somebody in a clergy collar is a really bad look, so I wasn't worried about that. Their favorite denial, though, was a really simple one, and it may sound familiar to you. We're just following orders. We have no moral responsibility. We're just tools of our bosses. We're just following orders. They're not in the military, mind you. They can quit. Where have I heard that before? Many of the agents had Spanish surnames. Some of them were immigrants themselves. It took some powerful denying of reality to dehumanize people so much like yourself. But the most common way to deny reality that I experienced this summer, I heard from well-meaning people, supporters. Thank you, Terry, for your witness at immigration court. I could never do what you did. Oh, yes, you could. There is no longer even a pretense of due process in ICE abductions and detentions, not only in the immigration system, but at airports and in any public space they choose. So it could be someone you love who gets abducted and disappeared for political reasons or for no reason at all. Then you would be the one crying in the hallway. You would be the one on the phone desperately trying to find out where your friend or loved one had been taken. You can do what I did. You just hope you don't have to. I hope you don't have to either. It's painful and scary to witness, but we must step out of our comfort zone for those we love. We can bear witness to these horrors. We must, for those we love, for our neighbors. You can bear witness by talking about the message you hear today. You now know someone firsthand who's witnessed abductions, who's witnessed children and grandmas being carted away. Don't keep it a secret. So, as a Christian, I'm supposed to preach good news, and so far I really haven't done that, have I? Okay, strong ending here. First, 3 things. First, people care. Over 150 volunteers participated in court observation this summer in Santa Ana, and probably an equal number or more in Los Angeles. Millions of people, some of them very scared, showed up at No Kings rallies yesterday, including many of you. People care about their neighbors. People care about democracy. We can't do everything, but we can find small ways to show that we care. And I'd love to hear about yours. And if you want some ideas, I got that too. I've got some interesting cards that you can take. Talk to me after the service. So that's number 1, people care. Number 2, we still have the freedom to speak up for what is right. I want to point out that 99.999 and maybe another 9% of people who went to those rallies yesterday were perfectly safe. That's important to remember, because there was a lot of people saying, oh, don't go to the rallies, you'll be arrested, you'll be gassed by ICE. Nope. So what am I asking you to say? Just tell people that you care about your neighbors, that what's happening is not right, and that it's real. You've talked to a witness. Third thing, and last, the power of love is fierce and beautiful and sacred and immense. If we can trust this foundational truth, we can love our neighbors even when it hurts, even when it's scary. A broken heart is an open heart. And your love will make a difference. It will cause you to speak and act differently. See, we can find the courage to speak up for the people we love. We can find the courage to speak up for the country we love. And our speaking, our witness, is an act of love. Thank you, my friends, and I look forward to witnessing with you in the future.